Since the 45 residential and 99 rural residential blocks comprising Stage 1 of Salamander went on sale at the beginning of this year, 26 have been sold. Some of these are affected by a major drainage problem which has been aggravated by recent rain. Members of Port Stephens Shire Council today inspected the waterlogged land, along with Salamander Project Manager David Gray.
We have in fact prepared a design for a channel to be constructed along the back of all these blocks, which will prevent any inundation occurring from the area to the south, and similarly it will remove any surface water that's currently lying on the blocks. This problem became apparent early in June. The designs were finished early in July. Council approval was gained last week and the work is already under construction.
Can you guarantee that this problem won't occur on other blocks?
Yes, we can, because we've actually done stadia surveys right through the estate and we know what the absolute levels of the blocks are.
More than 100 people congregated in the parish hall of St John's Anglican Church in Crystal last night to hear Sir Marcus Lane discuss the Bible and Christianity. The Archbishop's wide-ranging knowledge of the Church throughout the world attracted the interest of parishioners and clergy from the Anglican, Catholic, Uniting, Presbyterian and Baptist churches. Sir Marcus, who is a former Archbishop of Sydney and Anglican Primate of Australia, is a renowned biblical scholar and church historian. He is the author of several books on the subject and lectured extensively. On this occasion, his subject was the grace and sovereignty of God. The Archbishop will speak again at the parish hall tomorrow and Thursday night.
You are virtually helpless.
At this morning's forum, a panel of senior officers from the Taxation Department and chartered accountants presented their view of the budget. The Park Royal Function Room was packed with local businessmen concerned about the budget's possible effects.
As far as private investment is concerned, I think that's probably at a bit of a standstill. The September tax statement will be the important thing, in my opinion, whether in fact capital gains tax, for instance, comes into being. I think people might be sitting on the fence and seeing just what September might bring.
The steel industry plan suffered a mild setback in last night's budget. Newcastle and Port Kembla have been allocated $21 million for the next financial year. That's about $1.5 million less than last year. But much of the money allocated last year was not spent. There was good news, however, for the Hunter's wine industry. The budget contains no extra taxes on wine. This is despite the recent strong lobby by the so-called beer barons to increase sales tax. The most noticeable omission was funding for the Commonwealth Office block. Member for Newcastle Alan Morris says this is because Cabinet approval is being sought to greatly increase the building size. He says it's hoped the new building will house the Taxation Department after it reaches full strength in 1988. And defence spending will increase around 3% next financial year. We're already seeing the results in the recent acquisition of the RAAF's new FA-18 Hornet. Along with the new aircraft will come bases in Northern Territory and Western Australia, along with the continuing upgrading of Wilmington. Bruce Williams is a local chartered accountant. He chaired this morning's forum.
I think last night they gave us the pluses, and I think we might see in September some of the minuses.
What was the reaction of local businessmen this morning?
Well, I think probably the reaction is that it was a bit of a fizzer, bearing in mind what people were expecting.
Becomes only the fifth company in Australia to be awarded a licence to process and manufacture margarine. Construction of the plant is now underway at Rutherford and will be in 4 stages. The first stage will be the construction of the oil refinery, which will be in full operation by late October, early November. Second stage will be a hydrogenation plant for hardening the oil used in the manufacture of margarine. Third will be the manufacturing and packing plant and facility for bottled oil. And fourth, the installation of a solvent plant for oilseed extraction. The second and third stages should, according to the company, be in operation by early 1986. The fourth stage, according to the General Manager William Kane, St. Evening, holds great opportunity for farmers in the Hunter Valley area to grow crops which would be suitable for refining at the factory.
We applied to the Dairy Corporation for an extension of our current licence, which did not cover us for the manufacture of margarine. Following that, we made approaches through our local member, Mr. Alan Walsh, and with his assistance by approaching the Minister, we are now the recipient of that licence.
The factory will initially create 28 new jobs in the area, with the possibility of another 20 or so once the plant is in full operation. John Olsen was born in Newcastle, and his exhibition, which runs until late September, displays his work inspired by the Australian landscape. Entitled The Land Beyond Time, Olsen, along with 4 others, embarked on a journey to the Kimberley Ranges. Olsen's paintings and drawings from the 18-month expedition form a complete record of the artist's experiences. A book has also been published which gives an entire account of the explorer's journey. Meanwhile, Australian sculptor Guy Boyd is featured in the Von Berto Gallery's latest exhibition. Acclaimed as one of Australia's most highly respected sculptors, Boyd's works depict his expertise in creating forms with bronze. Concentrating largely on the human figure, Boyd uses his sensitivity of nature to portray evocative movement. The exhibition is on display until September the 15th.
The stresses are the hidden stresses in police work, the very long hours, the ever-growing crime rate, the pressures from superior authorities to do more about the crime or clear up, the pressures from the public, the constant limelight that they're in through corruption and a number of other issues, their pressures from home when they're working long hours. Many of these people carry beepers, many of them are on call so that every time the phone rings their stomach must turn. They can't relax, they can't sit down and watch a game of football on Saturday because they might be called to a job. And these are the sorts of stresses in the long term that pay or cause the most pain and cause the most trouble.
No, that's the very much the approach that we take. It was important that they really hammered the support group, and that was really quite a start to ask you to pick up any chair in this room, or every chair in this room. Your corporate have a resource which has its limitations. So if you're running a 40-kilometre run, then you sit.
I think that the police have a poor image of themselves rather than necessarily the public have a poor image of the police. I sometimes feel that the police are their own worst enemies, that in fact the public do have them in good regard. I think that the public see a very glamorous job with lots of adventure in it, but do not see some of the more hidden stresses.
As is traditionally the case at the opening of the Matara Bowls Carnival, today's event features a historic and somewhat gaudy Sir Francis Strait Bowls pageant. The carnival itself will run its 48th bowls over the next week, culminating with all finals at the Waratah Club on Friday. The main attraction for the week is the VHP Centennial CAA Invitational Traffic Pairs, which has drawn a top field of local interstate and international bowlers. Overseas entrants come from Hong Kong, New Guinea, New Zealand and Fiji. The carnival was officially opened by the Minister for Sport and Leisure, Mike Cleary.
That goes up block pretty well. I don't think you'll be enough on it.
From start to finish, the Williamtown Open Day was an exercise in logistics. Organisers estimated that 70,000 people attended. causing traffic snarls on the road and in the air. Despite that, the day's busy schedule of activities went according to plan. On the ground, aircraft ranging from helicopters to fighters were on display, including a new Qantas Boeing 767. Air Force guard dogs showed the public their skills taking part in a mock emergency. But the greatest excitement was in the air, where a constant stream of aircraft competed for attention. The main purpose of the open day was to introduce Australia's new fighters, the FA-18 Hornets. At the moment, Williamtown has 4 Hornets, but by the end of the decade, more than 50 will be based there. At $25 million each, the Hornets are a huge investment, but they are also greatly superior to the Mirages in both performance and fighting ability. The crowd had a chance to judge for itself when a Mirage and a Hornet staged a comparative flypast, a spectacle that left the audience gasping. The Youth Matara concept has brought together a wide variety of individuals and organisations, all with an interest in young people. As Matara organiser Johnny Allen explained, the Youth Festival will run concurrently with the second week of Matara from the 9th to the 13th of September. Almost all the activities will take place in the City Hall, Civic Park and the YWCA in Layman Street. In the park there will be vocational displays and a number of theatre performances including The Rage, a play written specifically for the festival. The City Hall will be used for free workshops, teaching young people everything from clowning and crafts to modelling. Music will be a major part of the festival. The City Hall will rock each night to the Battle of the Bands. Organisers describe the festival as an attempt to do something positive for young people.
The aim of Youth Matara is basically to open doors for young people in Newcastle and show them all the different sorts of things that are available to them, which includes sort of youth services, all the different educational institutes. We're going to have workshops, there'll be a daily musical program, there'll be theatre. Basically, I guess it's an arts festival, a career market and a trade fair all rolled into one, and it runs for a week.
Is it intended to be something that will be ongoing, that will be held again next year?
I think it will be if everybody turns up and there's lots and lots of people that come to it, and there's a chance that it could happen in the future.
.27-year-old Peter Spokes comes from Stone. He's a third Dan black belt, captain of the Australian Taekwondo team, and also a major reason why the sport is gaining popularity in the Upper Hunter. If it was in any other sport, Peter's achievements would make him very well known. But because it's Taekwondo, he doesn't command the same attention. Peter is 3-time South Pacific lightweight champion, twice Australian openweight champion, and is confident he can add further titles to the list when he heads the Australian team at an international tournament in New Zealand in October. Peter's involvement goes beyond competition. He also teaches Taekwondo. One group of pupils comes from a local school, which has included self-defence as one of its subjects.
They're physically confident and disciplined, so they're very confident that they can make a break if somebody tries to film more. It's a very good basis for the rest of their life. Eventually, straight away they can learn and master something instead of waiting years.
While Peter is adamant he's not that interested in tournaments, he's just as adamant that Australians are the best in the world. And no doubt he'll prove that once again at the international tournament.
The container ship Australian emblem loaded around 4,000 tonnes of aluminium ingots and wool bound for Korea and Japan. According to the Minister, the cargoes would not be limited to aluminium. Other industries could easily participate in the usage of the service. However, Mr Morris said any regular A&L service to Newcastle would depend on the availability of cargoes.
I can talk to people in our region. I can encourage them to make their purchasers of the products aware of the service we can provide. It's a congestion-free port. It does have a potential, but it means also that the businesses in the region, along with the shipping operators like ANL, have to convince those who use shipping services we have a good port here, we can give a reliable service, it's efficient, and let's get together and use it.
A special ceremony was held at City Hall this afternoon in which a cheque was presented to the marching band from the Japanese-based eBay Industries. Heading off to represent the state at the New South Wales exhibition in Tokyo, the gift will help with travelling expenses for the 170 strong marchers. According to the chairman organising the trip, Brian Ralph, the donation has been greatly welcomed.
Well, we did need the money because the cost of the Marching Koalas' visit to Japan will exceed $350,000. Parents and members are taking up a fair amount of this cost. We still needed to raise $200,000, mainly to cover transportation and accommodation costs, which are very expensive in Japan, and they were an item that we didn't have to contend with on our visit to America.
Where did the name Marching Koalas originate from?
Well, the Marching Koalas name was coined because of our visit to the Rose Parade. Officially, the band is the Newcastle Hunter High School, Combined High Schools Marching Band, which is a mouthful, and we just decided something typically Australian, to describe it as a marching band and to place it in Australia, and just out of the air came the Marching Koalas, and it's proved to be a very fortuitous title to give to the band for use in commentary purposes.
Members of the regional crime squad were quickly on the scene at the St George after the hold-up at 3:45 this afternoon. Staff told police that a middle-aged man carrying a bag very dim with grey hair and wearing a blue cotton jumper. Automatic cameras are currently set to witnesses to the hold-up and the confidence of the
Good morning everyone and welcome. Well, it was my intention to talk about one or two minor dividends from the 1985 federal budget, but I think we might leave that till next week, and instead we'll talk about interest rates. With a little bit of luck, and I stress with a little bit of luck, we might have seen the peak of medium to long-term interest rates. Now, don't get carried away by that statement. We still have this problem with regard to short-term interest rates, and I'm not ignoring for one moment cash management trusts, which in the main are offering in excess of 14%, nor am I ignoring, and we're talking about big bickies, but nor am I ignoring bank bills. And I'll let you into a little secret. A few days ago, we purchased a 40-day bank bill, and the return to us was 16.60%. I repeat, 16.60. But let's come back to what's offering in more nominal amounts. And I'm talking, of course, about telecom loans and, of course, Energy Commission of Western Australia. Now, both these loans are still current, and in the case of telecom, the rates range from 13 to 13.25%, and the minimum investment is $500. In the case of the Energy Commission of Western Australia, the rates range from 13.25 to 13.5, and the minimum investment is just $100. Now, there's a very interesting feature about the telecom loan. Firstly, the 13.25% applies at the shorter end, and the 13% applies for the 10-year term, which is a little contradictory. But let me take you back to around May or June earlier this year when I mentioned the Queensland electricity loan, and they were offering a top rate of 14%. Well, we'll talk about interest rates again in the next few weeks, but my advice is to start looking at these loans before they close and just start parking some of the money out medium to long term. I'll see you next Monday.